Esoteric, an esoteric interpretation of the tarot cards, is a project that I started a few years back. After noticing some Masonic and Templar imagery in some of the cards, I decided to delve deep into the symbolism behind them. The High Priestess is the second card of the Major Arcana. She is depicted seated in a blue garment with a cross on her chest. In her hand she holds the Torah, also known as the 5 Books of Moses. Upon her head she wears a horned diadem, and under her feet is a yellow crescent moon. To her right is a large black pillar with the letter B inscribed on it, and to her left, a large white pillar with the letter J. The background is draped in a tapestry covered with pomegranates and trees of some sort. The most distinct symbol of the High Priestess card is that of the pillars behind her. To most, the B and J lettering means nothing, but to the Masons, these have an instant definition that dates back to ancient Judaism. In the building of King Solomon's temple, the inner room was adorned in black and white tiles with an altar in the direct center. The southern entrance had 2 pillars on either side of the doorway that were freestanding and made no contact with the ceiling, and were not used as supports. These pillars were fashioned by the lead architect of King Solomon's court, Hiram. They were given the names Boaz and Jachin, meaning strength and to establish. Most Masonic temples to this day have reproductions of these pillars at their entrances in accordance with the temple built by Solomon in Jerusalem. With establishment and strength represented in both the Great Temple and on this tarot card, it poses the question as to what is being established and to what strength. The drapery in the background of the High Priestess is adorned with pomegranates, cut open to expose the several seeds inside. To understand the symbolism behind the tapestry, we must look at the historical significance of pomegranates throughout history and religion. In antiquity, the pomegranate has stood as an emblem of life, fertility, blood, and power. The copious amounts of seeds inside the fruit stand as a symbol of life-giving and fertility. In some religious texts, it is the pomegranate and not the apple of which Eve ate at the Garden of Eden. If this has any theological standing, then it can also be attributed to the wisdom of the knowledge of good and evil. Ancient Egyptians attributed it to the prosperity across the land and often ate it to cure diseases and promote prenatal health. Another biblical account involving pomegranates involves a scout delivering the fruit to Moses to show great prosperity for the Hebrew people in the Promised Land after wandering in the desert for 40 years. When studying the design of King Solomon's temple, I had came across a scripture verse in which Solomon himself chose the tip of the pomegranate to model his own crown after. If one of the most important figures in Christianity and Judaism chose this fruit to design his headpiece after, then it must have some great symbolic meaning to it. The mystical Jewish teachings of Kabbalah teach that the pomegranate has ties to mystical experiences. By this accord, whoever the High Priestess represents must have some ties to motherhood, fertility, and the prosperity of a chosen nation. The horned diadem upon the head of the High Priestess instantly seemed familiar to me from a theological background, and it wasn't long before I was able to closely relate it to another feminine divine being. In Egyptology, the horned crown is commonly attributed to the goddess Hathor. Hathor is one of the great Egyptian female deities, whom was a consort to the sun god Horus. Because of her ties to these gods, she was considered to be the mother of earthly beings. Her very image in hieroglyphs and relics invokes a symbol of maternal care and fertility, as she was often shown nursing pharaohs at her breast. Because of her nursing qualities, she is sometimes shown as having a cow head, and in some cases being depicted as a full cow with the diadem crowning her head. Her godly powers enabled her to transition from the heavenly realm to the earthly realm, which is why in Egyptian scripture she is said to possess the qualities of both human and God. The horn crown was not the only tie to the High Priestess, however, as Hathor was many a time portrayed wearing a blue dress. This was the point in my studies where I started to see some almost eerie ties to the more modern religious imagery, as she is shown with three distinct symbols represented on her body, that of the cross, Torah, and moon. In her right hand she is grasping on to the religious text to which Christianity, Judaism, and Islam all have their ties. The Torah, or the 5 books of Moses, is considered to be the most important religious text, as it is the histories of not only religious origins, but also of the world. Because the Torah is held so close to her side, it is quite apparent that she had some ties to Judaism. The cross on her chest is what iconography experts call an equal-armed cross. Its origins predate Christianity, originating in Greek theology. In a Christian point of view, the cross relates to Jesus and his crucifixion. The equal-armed cross in alchemy and astrology, however, has a much more intrinsic meaning, with its concepts involving perfect balance, especially relating to the elements. Could this be a tie to the 4 elemental suits of the tarot? Astrological interpretations also state that the equal arms of the cross represent male and female attributes. When it came to the last symbol of the High Priestess card, I was left with nothing but shock and awe upon discovering that the hidden meaning behind the moon under her feet was not actually a hidden concept at all. In early antiquity, the moon was considered to be a Zoroastrian symbol of regality and royalty. Several cities and tribes in the Holy Land adorn their important temples and other important buildings with crescent moon-shaped finials and banners. But the most important discovery regarding the lunar symbolism of this card comes from the Christian adaptation of the crescent moon icon, which is associated with the Virgin Mary. Yes, the High Priestess is the total embodiment of Christ's earthly mother. In fact, the imageries throughout the ages are not subtle in the slightest, and several depictions of Mary show her standing on a crescent moon, such as Cristoforo Roncalli's The Madonna and Child on a Crescent Moon. Other artistic parallels to the High Priestess can be found in Sandro Botticelli's Madonna of the Pomegranate, where she is shown clothed in a blue shawl, carrying the infant Jesus and eating a pomegranate fruit. We now have decoded 2 major arcana cards to the members of the Holy Family, which leaves a sense of wonder as to who or what will be uncovered next. I am your host Mitchell from the Eleusinian Society, and I thank you for joining us. Make sure to like and subscribe for more videos on the way.